Welcome to the Becoming Baby Ready podcast, your podcast for queer family planning. My name is Sam, and throughout this podcast, you'll hear me have conversations with professionals who work alongside people who want to start and grow their families, as well as parents of intentionally created families. Everyone I speak to identifies as being part of the 2S LGBTQIA+ community. This is your opportunity to learn answers to questions you didn't even know you had. I can't help but smile as I do the intro for this particular episode because all through our conversation, you will be able to hear the smiles on Dan's face as Dan Emerson talks to me about how he and his husband chose adoption to grow their family. Hello, everyone. Today, I'm excited to be speaking with Dan Emerson. Welcome, Dan. I'm proud to have you here. Please tell everybody about you and your family.
Yeah, thank you, Sam, so much for having me. My name's Dan Emerson. I am 34 years old, and about 2 years ago, I became a dad. My husband and I adopted an amazing boy in 2022. After some struggles with adoption and the process itself, but these past 2 years have just been absolutely amazing being a dad, and I've loved every second of it. So any chance I get to kind of talk about my son and sort of our lives, I leap at the chance.
Excellent. Well, that's truly fantastic. So, let's dive in a little bit with how you came to the decision to seek out adoption. Was that your first choice? Was that your only choice? Tell me why you and your husband chose adoption instead of surrogacy or something else.
Yeah, I think we went back and forth a lot for sure. I think after we got married and we knew we wanted kids, but we hadn't really dived too deep into sort of how we wanted kids.
Mm-hmm.
After looking through the options, we sort of pushed surrogacy aside just due to the fact that the cost was so high. We knew it was something that we wouldn't be able to afford. But as we look sort of more into our own families, we never realized just how much adoption there was in our own families. So I have an uncle who and his husband who've adopted three kids. In addition to like many other members of my family who've adopted kids in the more extended side. For my husband, his aunt and uncle have also adopted two children internationally, as well as his grandmother is adopted. So we just, we've seen such, loving families come out of adoption, and it's worked for literally everybody in our family. So we thought, why not just keep the tradition going and kind of do it that way?
Excellent. And so first, I guess I should ask, I'm based just west of Toronto, Ontario. Whereabouts are you located?
I'm in Westchester, New York, so I'm about an hour north of Manhattan.
Okay, all right. So you're in the US, and I ask that primarily because anyone listening, to give them an idea that how things are the same and different between
Right.
the two countries when it comes to things like adoption. Did you have the option of a public adoption, or did you go the private route, or was that your only option? Because now you've decided on adoption, which people sort of, I think, blanket think you either do surrogacy or you do adoption if you don't have a uterus to have a child, without realizing that now that you've made that decision, you
Yeah.
have these other decisions that you have to
No,
make as a
absolutely.
result.
It's nonstop choices until you finally have your child.
Yeah.
So for us, we were leaning towards the idea of an agency.
Mhm.
My uncle, the one who adopted three daughters, he actually works not for a specific agency, but he sort of helps out agencies in helping families kind of put together like their profiles and kind of putting together all the details they need. So we were leaning in that direction. But my husband's friend, who had adopted a few years ago, put us in touch with his adoption lawyer, just saying, reach out to her, give her a call. Even if you don't use her, you can ask her all the questions you want. I'm sure she could kind of point you in the right direction. And after meeting with her, we just fell in love with her. We thought she was so like on the money. Like she listened and answered every question we had directly, and she had so much experience. And we were just like, this, she seems like she's really sort of in our court. Let's go with her. So we decided at that point to go private.
Okay. And so would she put you in touch with with agencies, or did you then have to, you've got her as a lawyer, but did you have to find your own agency on the other side of that, or?
We actually didn't even get the chance to do an agency. So it was a tough process. So we started this process in March of 2020. So obviously horrible time to start it. Everything
Mhm.
starts shutting down. We go months and months without, anything. Um, During that time, we started just putting our names on different adoption-based websites. Adoption.com, can't even remember all the names now. There were so many at the time, but I also have experience in marketing, so I was kind of working on sort of promoting ourselves through Google search and things like that. We were sort of just trying every route where we could do it on our own. Not anything against an agency, but it was so hard for agencies at the time, and a lot of them weren't taking new clients because of COVID. So we just thought, why not try this ourselves?
Yeah.
And so we sort of did that process for about 2 years. I'd say it was hit or miss. We had a couple people reach out to us who either would ghost us or they ended up trying to be scammers or something like that. And we went about 2 years with nothing. And at the end of 2022, probably October, November, we decided that the way that we were doing it wasn't working. We loved our lawyer, but we needed an agency's help to kind of put us on the right track. So we reached out to an agency. We started the process of giving them all the information they need. We hadn't even signed a contract or anything like that. And in December, somebody or my son's birth mother found us on one of those websites that I had listed and reached out to us. And we weren't holding our breath. We were like, it's what are the chances this one's actually going to stick? But as time went on, and when we actually went to go meet her, we, knew that this was going to work. We knew she was just like an absolute rock star. She had for someone being so young, she had such a great head on her shoulders, and she knew what she wanted, and we all got along so well. So we sort of canceled the agency route, and we just stuck with her, and that's how we got our son.
Wow. As a Christmas present or whatever holiday you
Probably
happen to
a
celebrate.
few days before Christmas, I'd say. It was like the I was around December 20th, I believe, that she reached out to us. So it was definitely yeah, definitely a Christmas miracle there.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. And so all told, then you didn't sign with the agency, so you didn't have the fees associated with that. Are there
Right.
fees for associating yourself or registering on different websites like adoption.com and things like that? Do they charge you for that?
They do. They all have different prices per month. Some of them would be as little as like $5, $10 a month. Some of them were $150 a month. And we were getting so desperate that we were paying it all. I mean, we wanted to get our name out there as many places as possible. In addition, those Google search ads can be very, very expensive. So I
Mhm.
had some experience in marketing, so I felt pretty confident about kind of running them myself, but even those prices were starting to get pretty high. So I want to say every month we were probably spending $500 on the websites and maybe a few $100s in the Google search ads. So it was, yeah, the price was starting to rack up for really not a lot of, return.
And and we don't think about that piece of it, right? We think, okay, if we're going to go with an agency, we're going to pay their whatever fee,
Mhm.
10,000, 20,000, 50,000, depends on the agency. I've come to learn. And they do some of that legwork for you. But those costs over a couple of years can add up pretty quickly.
Oh,
And so
absolutely.
you're not necessarily just sitting there without having shelled out a lot of money for, as you say, nothing to show for it yet.
Absolutely. And I think that was one of the harder parts was, we would put our names on these websites and we would get almost no views and I'd want to take it down, but I would tell myself, I don't know if it's working or not. I don't know how many people are actually seeing this and considering us. I don't know. sort of what's happening at the other end of our profile. So maybe I just keep paying this. Maybe nobody's seeing it, but at the chance that somebody is, I keep going.
Yeah.
So sort of not having the expertise of an agency was difficult. It was putting a lot on us that, was it was hard at the time. It was very emotionally draining, and it was definitely making us extremely anxious. And, after 2 years, I was thinking to myself, we wanted a child 2 years ago. Like, how long is this process going to take? And it's the uncertainty really starts to make your head spiral.
It does. And then you have to really work on things as a couple too, right? Because that's the challenge and the difficulty with the whole process. And it doesn't matter whether you're cishet, whether you're queer, however you identify, when you want to become parents, you want to become parents. And
Absolutely.
your tunnel vision becomes that, and other things fall away, and our ability to communicate well with one another sometimes can be a big piece of that.
Yeah, we definitely struggled a bit. I mean, I'm very lucky in that my husband is so he's a social worker. He's a therapist, and he is very good about sort of turning on that therapist mindset. So when I would start to spiral and things would get difficult, he would snap into action. He'd calm me down, we'd kind of work together. So I know if I was doing this with anybody else, it would not have been the same way. I mean, he was just so amazing. And even though I know he was going through the same struggles as me, he would almost not show it if I sort of was my turn to freak out.
Right.
So we had a very good balance. He was just absolutely incredible. And as soon as Andy was born, that's when we started expressing all the tough feelings that we were sort of struggling with at the time. So
That
yeah,
that's the gift, right? Once you're past the big hurdle, then you
yeah.
can actually talk about what the struggle may have been for both of you individually. Tell me how the two of you met.
Yeah, we met in college. Both went to school on Long Island at Hofstra University. We met in 2011, I believe. He was at the time, so he's a therapist now, but at the time he was actually a film major. And I had a bunch of film friends who would ask me to like act in movies and things like that. And so one day I was acting in a movie that he was producing, and we just sort of hit it off right then and there. And we've just been inseparable since.
That's pretty cool. And
Yeah.
filmmaking to social work, that's a big jump.
Yeah, that was definitely difficult because he had graduated with a full film degree. He was working on a couple TV shows, and by that point we were living together. We bought a home, and life was going great. And he just knew that's not what he wanted to do anymore. He wanted to go back to school. He wanted to go to graduate school and become a social worker. And it was a difficult conversation because we have a mortgage and we're starting our lives, and now you're gonna leave a job, and now we're gonna throw money at school. So it was difficult, but he just had this passion in him that he wanted to do it, and it was like undeniable. You could tell he wanted to help people so much, and so we hunkered down. We pinched our pennies for a while. And as soon as he was done with graduate school, he took off. He's worked at some amazing centers. He's helped so many people. I'm blown away at how much of an impact he has on the world, and it's like so heartwarming to see. It's also difficult for me to complain about my job when he's like helping people through their toughest times, and I have to say something like, "Oh, a report wasn't turned in on time." So it's yeah, so it's
Perspective.
funny. Right, exactly. But he absolutely loves it, and I just like love seeing the passion, and honestly, that mindset that he has really helped in the like parenting world.
I would think because, I mean, for one thing, the two of you know that you can challenge or navigate challenging times because you've got this experience that you've got together at one point, and this is the direction your lives were taking, and you totally changed course so
Yeah,
that you could accommodate. So he knows you're there to support him. His whole education now is about supporting people. So you've got each other to lean on, and you know that you can.
absolutely.
And there are ups and downs with any family creation journey. There are ups and downs. Whether you're waiting for the call or waiting for somebody to try and connect with you, or you're waiting to find a surrogate or a donor or whomever. So the whole journey is not So that knowledge that you've got this rock of a foundation behind you is pretty amazing.
Oh, absolutely. And honestly, those struggles, continued after finding, my son's birth mom. We had some issues getting the birth father to sign certain documents. We had issues with just the fact that she was out of state, and we'd have to kind of go through both the New York and the Pennsylvania, courts to kind of figure all this out. Those problems persisted. The first week of my son's birth, we spent in a hotel room because legally he was not ours yet. We couldn't leave the state with him, so we had to raise him in a like a Marriott, and it was very strange. It was difficult, but we leaned on each other. We had family come by and bring us food, and for a week we really hunkered down and made it work.
Hold on for just a moment. We'll be right back. You know about babyREADY because you're listening to this podcast, so you know that we are all about queer family planning and helping you have the family of your dreams. But did you know that we don't abandon you once your baby arrives? We actually offer parenting coaching as well, and that's not just for the newborn phase, although we are there for that, but it's through toddlerhood and young children, tweens, and even through the teen years. When you need someone unbiased to lend an ear so that they can hear where your struggles truly are and help you come up with a path and a plan that feels truly right for you and your individual family, don't hesitate to reach out. We are always happy to be there for you. Visit us at www.babyready.info for more information. So tell me how that process works then, because I know it varies from state to state, as you've just indicated. So in the state of Pennsylvania, a child is born to someone who's putting their child up for adoption. The adoptive parents are there,
Correct.
but does she have a week or 10 days to rescind that? How long? And then when is the whole process finalized?
Yeah, so I think she has actually even more than that. I think she has like 30 days to change her mind, but the process can still continue and the paperwork can be signed before those 30 days in addition. So I want to say from the day he was born, maybe a few hours later, the lawyer reached out to us. She sent us all the documents that we could now legally sign because we had our son's information and his, everything like that. So we started the process. She immediately tried to get it in front of the Pennsylvania court. I believe it was all on the Pennsylvania side that we were struggling with. New York sort of signed off already and was good to go.
Mhm.
So they were sort of doing a lot of back and forth, trying to get it in front of a judge to confirm it. I know sometimes it can go a few days, but our son was born at like a very strange time when when the judge wasn't available. So it did end up taking like 5 or 6 days, but basically we just sort of, you know, hung out in that hotel and just waited for the judge to finally sign it. We were lucky in that the birth mother was able to sign a document that our lawyer had put up that basically said it was something I think that went before the judge to say I know I'm not going to change my mind. She still had the option, but it was almost a way of saying I know I'm not going to change my mind. I want my child to go to them. Please go ahead and make this happen. So I think that helped expedite the process as well.
Wow. But so when did you meet your son for the very first time?
About an hour after he was born, we had gotten the call the night before. Well, not the call. So his birth mother was 18 at the time. And like all 18-year-olds, instead of calling us, she just shot us a text that said, "I'm going into labor." So we're
Right.
hanging out. Yeah, we're hanging out. It's 11 o'clock. I'm about to go to bed, and I get this text message that says, "I'm going into labor, FYI." I leap out of my couch. We just start. I mean, we already had bags packed and everything, but you'd think we had no idea what to do. We just jumped in the car and just started driving towards Pennsylvania. We didn't have a hotel room or anything like that. We just was like, I want to get there as quickly as possible. I called my mom actually on the way, and I told her everything was happening. She's a very type A person, very, very head focused. So she said, I got this. She found us a hotel. She found us, close to the place. And by the time we got there, we had a reservation waiting for us. Um, we went there. By the time we got to Pennsylvania, she was still in labor, very early stages. So we just sort of stayed up all night. We sat there, maybe we got a couple hours of sleep, but we just spent that day and the morning after just waiting. Um, at one point, we had gone to, I believe it was like a Target or something to just grab some food for the day. And my phone beeps, and I look at it and I see that he'd just been born. They sent us a picture of him. Yeah, I got so excited. We didn't even buy the stuff that we were getting. We just left it on a shelf and we hightailed it out of there. I mean, I was ready. Every time a phone would vibrate anywhere in my vicinity, I was like, this is it. It's happening. Um, we flew to the hospital. By the time we got there, we saw his birth mother. We saw her family was there supporting her, and then we saw our son. And I'm never gonna forget that moment. I remember every color in the room. I remember exactly how I felt. It was just the most amazing moment to see him. I'm like getting emotional now
I was
thinking
just
about
thinking,
it. So.
I'm just starting to well up here. That's just so amazing.
Yeah, I just love him so much, and just seeing him for the first time, I was like, I knew like our lives were different now, and I was just so excited for everything. I was so excited to hold him for the first time, excited to bring him home, just excited to get our lives started.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. And my husband was, he's good at kind of being the rock when you need him to, but in that moment he was a puddle. I mean, he just like emotionally just broke down. He was so excited. It was amazing seeing that. There's a lot of tears in that room that day.
No doubt. No doubt. Oh my gosh. Do you have any contact with your son's birth parents at all?
So we have very little with the birth father. I know he is out of the country. No ill wills or anything like that. We still, he asks us for updates every now and then, very cordial. Same thing with the birth mother. We see her, I want to say 2 to 3 times a year, maybe. She'll come to visit us or we'll go to visit her. She had just wanted to stay a part of his life, and we fully understand that. We're fully supportive.
Hmm.
And she's been amazing. I mean, she'll send him gifts on his birthday. She'll reach out to us just for like a video every now and then. But she's been amazing. She's now starting her new life post, giving up her child for adoption. She's doing amazing, and yeah, she's just a very sweet person. I mean, I don't even know how I would describe her as a member of our family, but I still do feel that type of closeness to her. So it's been really nice being able to have that.
That is one of the gifts that a private adoption can give you over a public adoption, because you have the opportunity to get to know the birthing parent and get to know something about how they feel about the journey that they're on. Are they simply young? Do they already have children and they're not ready to have more? Has some circumstance in their life changed? And so it's nice for you that you have that. And it's so cool for your son that he will grow up knowing how incredibly loved he is by everyone. The person who birthed him because she wanted nothing but the best for him, the parents who adopted him, the whole spectrum of things, right?
Absolutely. I mean, that's been one of the questions that people in my family have had is sort of, are you going to tell him he's adopted? Are you going to let him know who his birth mother is? And, we told them absolutely. He's still loved. We're still his parents, but like, we're not going to hide it from him. I think, especially once he starts learning about the birds and the bees, I think he'll start to figure something out.
Yeah.
So I just think, I believe he should have that type of connection. And like I said, she's been absolutely amazing. She even had some say in picking his name, which we really loved. Um, so yeah, it's really nice, and I hope that she'll sort of stay as a part of his life, for the rest of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is true, and it is different for members of the queer community when it comes to family creation. Because as you say, once he starts to learn about the birds and the bees, truth be told, he's going to start school and kids are going to say, "Where's your mom?" because
Hmm.
because those kids have heard from their parents that you can't have a baby without an egg and a uterus to go along with the sperm. So, just something's missing here. So to be able to say to him, actually we got it all covered. We're
Yeah,
good.
absolutely.
This is the person who birthed you, and she gave you to us, and sort of settled at that. Can we talk about costs? We talked about costs of putting things on the internet in terms of getting your name on lists and things like that, but adoption's not free. When you're
Right.
doing a private adoption, you had to pay lawyers' fees. You had to presumably pay the birth parent. You gave her money as well, I assume. I'm not as familiar with the private system in the US, but can you tell a little bit about that?
Sure, absolutely. So yeah, prices for us, I want to say a majority of the amount that we spent went to the lawyer, just the back and forth. We also had to pay for her lawyer as well in order to kind
Okay.
of make this happen. So um, the when we were talking to our adoption lawyer, she was saying prices can vary ex an extreme amount because there's some instances where there's certain costs you're not paying. So, for example, if the birth parent was, let's say, homeless or something like that, we'd have to pay for lodging for her. We'd have to pay, if she didn't have insurance, we'd have to pay medical expenses. We were lucky in the fact that she had a home. She had, she didn't need anything extra from us. The only thing she did ask for was some money for a therapist to just kind of talk her through the process. She wasn't regretting it, but she said at the time too, she was like, right now I know I'm fine, but as we get closer and I know it's gonna be more difficult for me. So we were more than happy to help with that. She had the therapist to kind of talk her through it. So that was the only expense that was, I guess, specific to her. So in the end, I want to say when all was said and done and we had paid all of those individual bills, I want to say it cost us somewhere between 22 to $25,000,
Okay.
which I know from other people I've met have is low. I mean, we got
Mhm.
very lucky in that it was so quick and there was no complications and just everything seemed to work out that yeah, it was a lower point, which is, $25,000 is not nothing, but it was a lot better than we had sort of planned for. So that was definitely a nice bonus.
Yeah. Yeah. And, good for her for recognizing she needed to speak to somebody. Would that have been in, I guess it would be difficult for him, but I'm thinking about your husband, who's a social worker who helps people navigate difficult, challenging times and decisions in their lives. And so wearing a professional hat, I can see him, or I can assume that he would be inclined to say, I think you should probably talk to somebody. But as someone who's about to become a parent to the child that this person is birthing, it would be hard to switch those hats. Like, if you need to talk to somebody, great, but can we still be the parents of your baby? Kind of, like, how do you navigate those dynamics in your head?
A lot of it is just kind of jumping in and hoping for the best. I mean, you know what I mean? There's so much uncertainty. But anyone who's, my family has met her, Steve's family has met her. Just talking with her, you can tell she knows what she's doing. She has extremely level head, especially for someone so young. I was not that level headed at her age. I'm just blown away.
Mhm.
So to kind of tell herself to kind of sort of be realistic with herself like that was really impressive. So we knew that it wasn't going to change her mind or anything like that. She knew what she wanted. She had talked through her options. And she knew she wanted to kind of bring our son into the world. And it was, it was heartwarming. It was definitely like we felt like we almost had like an additional ally in this process through
Mhm.
her, which I did not expect going in. I expected it to be so much more difficult because, you'll hear horror stories from people of just like how the adoption process goes. And I was just, it's like bittersweet in knowing that if we ever decide to adopt again, it's never going to go this smoothly just because everything worked out so well
Mhm.
that I'm sure something will happen, but yeah, we're just really happy to have found her.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Have there been times through this process and this journey, you're putting yourselves out there on social media and on websites as a same-sex male couple looking to adopt a child. Everybody and their brother has an opinion about things, good, bad, or otherwise. Have there been times through this whole process that you have experienced people othering you and making you feel as though you didn't have the right to take this journey?
Yes, definitely. I think from a number of different areas. So when it came to our families, I want to say they were, for the most part, pretty supportive. On my side, I was the first of sort of my generation to have a child. So most people were just excited to have a new child in the family in general.
Mhm.
There were a few people who sort of a little bit more old school seemed concerned by it. Sort of, I got a couple of comments about, well, what about his real parents? And,
Mm.
is it gonna, I even had a couple, more fringe family members being concerned about sort of what quote unquote race we were going to pick. I mean, we heard some
Mm.
pretty rough things, but I want to say it was not as much. It was just almost like a few bad eggs. It was not the majority of our family was excited. They were ready to go. The more difficult or more vocal side that we had to deal with was the internet. So because we were doing it all ourselves, because we had to create our own Instagram page and go on adoption.com, we got a lot of messages from people calling us groomers, calling us,
Mhm.
pedophiles, saying, people reporting our posts all the time to get automatically taken down. I work in marketing. My primary focus is social media, so I was not shocked by this. I mean, I can tell you this, you could post anything and you'll get this type of response somewhere. But it was more difficult in the fact that this was the first time it was directly affecting my life, like directly
Right.
affecting my family. And it was definitely hard to hear. And there were some times where, I would take down our Facebook page for a day or two just to like, I knew it was gonna hamper the process, but I just couldn't look at them anymore. And I knew it was too difficult. Um, so that was a little bit difficult. And even after my son was born, if I post a picture of him, I'll still get the odd comment like that. Usually on, platforms where you have less of a closed group. So something like Instagram, which is mostly just family for me, you get, all the, oh my gosh, he's so cute. But if I post something on like Twitter, or I'm not there anymore, but when I was on
Right.
Twitter, yeah, I would see a lot of those types of comments, which was definitely disparaging. But I just would always tell myself I've never been this happy in my life. I'm the happiest I've ever been. This is like the peak of this is the peak of my life. Like when I look back, I'm going to think about these days. So these comments are not going to take me down. They're not going to deter me. I'm just going to keep moving forward, and that's what we've done.
Excellent. It's not always easy to do, but the reality that the two of you have a good communication style already established even before your son joined your family goes a long way in knowing on the day when it's really getting you down, you can talk to him, and on the day when it's really getting him down, he can talk to you, and you just try and weather it together to the best of your abilities, right?
Absolutely. I think, yeah, I want to say it's been harder post birth just from the sheer stress of, I mean, we have a 2-year-old, so it's running, it's screaming, it's climbing. So it's been more difficult than it has been. But we're still able to make it through. Even in our worst times, we know that we love each other and we're going to be okay. And we always have that sort of framework in the back of our head that no matter how bad things get, like I love him more than words can say, and we're just gonna, kind of keep moving through.
Yeah, 100%. I fully agree. I would love if you would finish off our conversation today by telling everyone who's listening exactly how much you love parenting by telling us what your favorite part of parenting is.
Oh my gosh. Oh, there's so many. I want to say, I mean, I think my gut reaction is to say every time my son laughs,
Mm,
I want to do a backflip. But I
mhm,
think my favorite thing, honestly, has to be the times my son surprises me. If
mm,
he comes out of nowhere and just says a new word, or he does a new thing, or just something like that, and just completely unprovoked, I absolutely love it. I just love seeing his personality come through. I love sort of like meeting him a little bit more every single day.
yeah.
I think he's just absolutely incredible, and I love sharing those moments with my husband. I love, if he said the word ladybug the other day in front of both of us, and we looked at each other like we had seen the most incredible thing in the world, and it was phenomenal. And I was like so excited, and it was amazing. And I just love those moments. I love just spending time with him and just sort of like learning who he's becoming. He's only 2, but every day I feel like it's a new child. Like he's just his personality is coming out so much more.
Mhm,
Um,
mhm.
so yeah, I can't wait to like fully meet the adult he's going to grow into.
That's awesome. I love that. I love that. Are you comfortable sharing your social media handle so that people can see your family, or is that something you try to keep more private?
No, I'll definitely share it. So I am on Instagram and Threads at Dan Emers, DANEMERS.
I believe Threads is where we connected. You were talking about how much you love being a dad, and I was like, "Whoa, hey, hold on. If you love being a dad, you should talk to me."
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I could talk about, I might need to get a separate Threads account to just talk about like all the stuff my son does. Yeah, I absolutely, it's like, I mean, it sounds weird to say it's like my passion or my hobby, but like, I love being a dad. It's the greatest joy of my life.
That's amazing. That's what parenthood is supposed to be for everyone who's a parent. So I love hearing that. And anyone listening can see or hear the smile on your face that has been ear to ear this entire conversation.
Well, thank you for giving me the chance to kind of come on and talk about it. I mean, like I said to you right before the recording, I'll tell a cashier this whole life story. Like, I just love talking about being a dad and my son, and yeah, I just love sharing it with the world. So, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's my absolutely my pleasure. Thank you so much. I hope that you have a fabulous rest of your day, and I can't wait for the world to hear the story of Dan's family creation. Thank you for joining me today on the Becoming Baby Ready podcast. If you have a story that you'd like to share, or you know someone who might, if you're a professional who works in the capacity of helping people start and grow their families, and you identify as being a part of the 2S LGBTQIA plus community yourself, then please don't hesitate to reach out. We always have room for more stories to share, and there's always more learning to do.